This doctor is the president of the board for the ICPA, again delivering care to those especially who need it at that age. He also serves on the state board of Massachusetts. There's another hashtag for you. Spell Massachusetts, tag Life West Wave, be entered to win some other fun prizes. But I said without further ado, and I have delayed now, I would like to introduce you to Dr. Peter Kevorkian.
Okay, so it's great to know that I just got a new position being on the state board of Massachusetts. Thank you so much for that. No, I've done lots of things. I have yet to be on the board. Could I ask everybody to take a deep breath in and let the breath out? I want you to do that again and be really mindful to taking a breath. Take a deep breath in and let the breath out. It's the first thing you did when you came into this world. It'll be the last thing you do when you leave. I believe that every chiropractic adjustment increases the breath of life within the physiology. And let me explain how. You can only breathe for the moment. I believe a chiropractic adjustment brings the nervous system and the physiology into the moment, just as the breath. What is this thing that we call a vertebral subluxation? Some people say it's not real. Some people say it's an antiquated concept. Some people say it's unscientific and not proven. This is how I see it. Something happens to a person that the physiology doesn't quite understand, can't process. That force comes at the body, and at that moment in time, the most honoring thing that the innate wisdom of the body could do at that moment is to allow a subluxation to occur. If it didn't, based on our philosophical understanding, if it didn't do that, something worse would have happened to that body. So subluxating itself was at that moment the most honoring thing that the physiology could do. And it holds that experience and now carries it to a future moment in time. Holding an experience of the past that it couldn't integrate, that it couldn't understand, into a future point in chronology. Then they walk into your office. You do a leg check or a cervical syndrome or motion palpation or x-ray or whatever your indicators are that says they're subluxated. And based upon those things that you find out, you put a force into the physiology, and at that moment in time, the physiology says, oh, that's what that was all about. Process and integrates that force, dissipates the experience, and comes into a greater sense of presence at that moment in time. At that moment, just like the breath, bring us into the moment. I believe that every chiropractic adjustment increases the breath of life within the physiology. Take a deep breath in. Deep breath out. Who's having a great time at the Wave? Come on, let's hear it. So most of you have heard of Apple computers. They made a commercial a few years ago. I'd like to show it to you. Maybe? Ooh, no. There we go. Maybe not. There we go, big button.
Here's to the crazy ones. The misfits. The rebels. The troublemakers. The round pegs in the square holes. The ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. About the only thing you can't do is ignore them. Because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
So a good friend of mine, Dr. Gary DiBenedetto, said this is a great commercial, but it's just got some of the wrong faces on there. So he decided to redo the commercial with the same sound, but a few characters that maybe you've seen before. Lights.
Here's to the crazy ones. The misfits. The rebels. The troublemakers. The round pegs in the square holes. The ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. About the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
Our profession was started by some crazy people. Our profession's been defined by some really crazy people. Welcome to the crazies. As a matter of fact, I believe that all the problems that we have in our profession come from people who don't want us to be crazy. Isn't that true? Because we do think differently. You're crazy. Think about it. You believe that people can live a normal, healthy, vital life. I'm sorry. A normal, vital life without taking chemicals from the outside. You believe that the body is designed to make every drug, every chemical it should ever need in a lifetime. That's crazy in our world. You believe that the power that animates our world, that inborn innate intelligence, is not just capable of getting rid of diseases, but allowing the fullest unfoldment of the human species. And most of you, I think, in this room believe that the power that makes life, the power of love, has the capacity to move mountains, to heal people, to transcend any of the problems that we have, because that's the source of all creation. We are crazy, and there's nothing wrong with being crazy. I thank you for taking time to be here right now. After lunch, I promise you, you will leave very much in your heart and very much understanding a deeper level of commitment and connection to the people you serve. I'd like to first start with gratitude, to the crazy ones, but to Life West, Ron, and all the people that made this weekend possible. A big round of applause to all of them. You know, everybody thinks, oh man, these people get up in front of that stage, man, and they like must really know what they're talking about. They're like really confident. I'm nervous as anything up here. It's great, with the lights and everything the way that it is. Anyway, everybody take a breath in. Deep breath out. So, how many of you have heard me speak before? Round of applause. Woohoo! My fan club, thank you. For those of you that haven't, we'll see how it goes. I practice in Massachusetts. I have a family practice with my most amazing wife, Patty Giuliano, and we see lots and lots and lots of kids. There are many things I could tell you about my practice. Yes, it's a cash practice. 95% of people have no type of third-party reimbursement. We see lots of kids, about 30% of kids. We see lots of pregnancies. Best way to build a practice is take care of pregnant ladies. You're guaranteed to have practice growth within a few months. But probably the greatest claim to fame that myself and Patty Giuliano, my wife, have is in our 25th anniversary. We've been doing the gig now 36 years. On our 25th anniversary, we went through our database and wanted to see how many people have been under regular chiropractic care for over 20 years. How many people stayed under chiropractic care for 20 years or more? In our 25th year, yes? You have a question? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm getting there. I haven't told them yet. Is that what you said? Yes. That is what I said. How many people have been under care over 20?
Well, sometimes you misinterpret what people say.
Absolutely, you stop me. Not a problem. So in our 25th year, we had 150 people that have been under regular care at Westwood Family Chiropractic for over 20 years. Been under care for 20 to 25 years. That number now is just shy of 200. Now, regular care is somebody who's walked through the door of my practice once a week or more. Because that's how often most chiropractors like getting checked. That's how often I like getting checked. That's how often I want my kids to get checked. So that's probably what makes this a unique practice, is that it's a family. And I'd like to share with you some aspects of what I believe come at the core roots of building a family practice, staying aligned to our philosophy, how it's so needed in our world today, and how this concept of salutogenesis really integrates within that process. One of my claim to fame is being involved with the ICPA, the International Chiropractic Pediatric Association. It was started by Larry Webster a lot of years ago. Dr. Larry is known as the grandfather of pediatric care. And the ICPA has 3 divisions to it. The first is research. The ICPA Research Division focuses on salutogenic measurements, quantification of chiropractic care. As you'll understand in a minute, salutogenesis is best researched at this present time primarily through quality life assessments, through questionnaires, but there are other methods that are coming forth. We've actually put more papers into publication in the last 3 years than all of the chiropractic institutions in the world combined. So it is our largest budget in terms of what we do as an organization. The second division of ICPA is training. Many of you are familiar with the ICPA certification or diploma program. It's a 1.5 year training in chiropractic technique, in approach, in family practice, in neurology, in nutrition, the gambit of things that put a family practice together. And lastly, in public education. Our award-winning Pathways magazine is amazing. Patients look forward to getting it every month within our practice. If you're not a member of the ICPA, I encourage you to join. Please support Life West College. Support your organizations. We need to thrive as a profession, but please join the tribe of ICPA. It is the largest member-based organization in the world. We're over 6,000 paid members. So please join us and become part of that group. We need you. We need to work as a tribe. I'd like to begin this talk on salutogenesis by going back to where it all began.
Good night, Harvey. Harvey? Harvey?
Don't worry about my office tonight.
Okay, Harvey?
Warm enough for you tonight, Harvey? Warm enough for you tonight, Harvey?
Yes,
How long have you been deaf, Harvey?
over 17 years, Dr. Didi.
How did it happen? What brought it on, Harvey? Do you know?
One day I was bending down, scrubbing with my brush, and I hear a popping noise in my neck, and I turn around, and sound is gone. I don't hear no more.
Did it hurt when you heard this noise in your neck? Yeah. Does it still hurt? Let me take a look at that neck of yours. Why, Harvey, you've got a lump back here. Can I examine you closer? Does it hurt right there?
Yeah. I guess I just never noticed it.
Is this where the popping sound came from?
Yes, sir.
Will you let me try to help you? Harvey? Harvey!
Doctor, I can hear again. I can hear again.
Are you sure?
Yes! Yes, I can hear again!
And D.D. Palmer, at that moment in time, thought he found the cure for deafness. Wouldn't you? So he puts out a shingle, he says, I cure the deaf. Deaf people all started coming to him. They didn't get their hearing back. But they reported other things happened. They could breathe better. Diabetes got better. Their colon worked better. They could sleep better. Headaches went away. D.D. Palmer thought he found the cure of disease. And if you go back into the Davenport Times and look at the old tabloids, he took out full-page ads. Chiropractic cures anything short of rigor mortis. Well, we know that's not what chiropractors do, but this is what D.D. thought we did. He thought by pushing on people's backs that ailments would go away. He taught other people how to do it. Some of these people go off and they start pushing on people's backs and their problems don't go away. And they said, oh, I'm gonna use some other stuff. I'm gonna use some massage. I'm gonna use some machinery. I'm gonna do some vitamins. Because they really wanted to help people, help their ailments. But D.D. Palmer really began to explore this science that he had stumbled upon and realized that he wasn't treating any diseases, but he was making a powerful contribution to the health, well-being, and vitality of people. And as he explored this idea, and even more so his son B.J., he realized that what he had uncovered was not a means by which to get sick people well, although they did. But what they began to do is express a greater degree of health and vitality. And our profession was born on this, but yet you can see where the conflicts exist within our profession. There are those that really want to treat ailments. They claim that chiropractic cures diseases, and realizing that pushing on bumps on people's back is limited to a very few diseases. Musculoskeletal aches and pains and complaints. So they're going to do other stuff. But if the objective becomes to allow a greater degree of function of that body, greater degree of adaptability of that body, then what we're doing is making a powerful contribution to the vitality and expression of life. Well, through this process grew our philosophy to step back and look at the big idea, as BJ would talk about, and recognize that the universe is, oh, you guys can see that, I can't see that, okay? That the universe is organized, that it knows how to put the stars in the sky and the planets around the sun, and the roots grow down and the plants grow up. And that this genius that knows how to keep a table be a table and Peter be a Peter and a video monitor be a video monitor, that the same intelligence that holds all the things together is part of what's connected to allowing us to be healthy and well and vital and energetic. But that understanding of our philosophy came through a process of deduction, by starting with a major premise, this major idea that there is an organizing idea that holds the aspects of the universe together. I take it one step further, though. I believe this intelligence that holds the universe together isn't limited to the physical realm. Not the physical realm in terms of matter, but even those other things like relationships, life experiences, love. That the same force that holds the stars in the sky knows exactly how much money should be in your checking account right now. Knows exactly the right people and experiences for you to have for your next level of physical, spiritual, psycho-spiritual growth. That everything happens within our universe out of an intelligent design, whether we like it or not, whether we know why or not, but to come into that place that the universe knows. That's at the core essence of where our philosophy was born, this vital idea of recognizing that there's this vital life energy that holds and binds the universe together. This idea that we call that there's an innate intelligence, an aspect of this universal intelligence that animates life and matter, is what we want to see fully expressed. And this inborn wisdom utilizes the nervous system as its key mechanism of mediation, of coordination, adaptation. And I propose that what we understand about the nervous system today doesn't even come close to the possibilities that may exist as we evolve as a species on this planet. And as much as we have problems, as much as we have challenges, as much as we wonder why sometimes the things that are happening in Canada or in Australia in our profession occur, I believe that within the scheme of what we are here to do as chiropractors, as chiropractic professionals, that there's an intelligent design in everything. That even sometimes the absolute worst things sometimes wind up being the greatest gifts that we could have. So I can only tell you from Peter's personal experience in my lifetime, some of the greatest challenges I've had have also been some of the greatest gifts through my growth. So I believe we experience that with our patients, with ourselves, with our profession, with our country, with our world. Everybody take a breath in. Deep breath out. We have a number of problems in healthcare. We have this idea that life needs no help, just no interference, is the core value of what we do. We understand that if we could take an interference out of any system, that system can work better. If we take it out of a life system, specifically the nervous system works better. But I believe we could take that idea and extend it into everything. Take an interference out of any system, that system functions better. If there's something interfering with a relationship, remove the interference, that relationship becomes better. If there's something interfering with any function of the body, remove the interference, that system is better. So as we look at the problems that are in our world, whether it's the problem that the birth process is treated like a 9-month disease, okay, where things are extracted from crazed women, or we live in a healthcare culture that believes that the body needs organs taken out to be healthier, removing perfectly good breast tissue so somebody doesn't get breast cancer, giving people chemicals of vaccines because they believe that that's going to make their bodies work better, be able to survive in this world. Regardless of what it is, all the problems that we see within healthcare, take an interference out of the system, and that system can work better. We know that as chiropractors, if we can understand a system, find out where the areas of interference occur, put a specific force into that area to allow that interference to be removed, mediated, integrated, that system works better. I believe that works in everything, in political organizations, in relationships, in schools. Removing an interference allows a greater expression of whatever system there is by that intelligent design. Hell, is our philosophy true or isn't it true? You see, sometimes we use our philosophy just as a means of patient education. I believe as the philosophy flows through everything that you do within your practice and within your life, that level of congruence gets expressed beyond the ability to articulate it. You don't convince or con 200 people to start using chiropractic care as part of their regular life and pay for it every year for themselves and their families. It's not a cognitive process. It's a soulful process. There's a level of truth that lives within that. So the more that we align ourselves to that truth, the more that we will create the ability to remove interferences in other aspects of our world. In everything. In our food supply. In our air supply. In countries. I believe that some of the problems that we have as nations ultimately come into interferences upon egos, and about control and about money. But what people really need to do is come back to one fundamental truth. The same thing that allowed their breath to come into their body in the first place. The force and the power of love that created the universe. You see, that's going to be ultimately the source of everything. That's what this institution was built upon. That's what chiropractic was built upon. So we think sometimes that by controlling things, our intellect will find the answer, that research will give the answer. You already have the answer. It's on the inside of you. Isn't that what we tell our patients? Your body knows all the answers. Let's trust that. The universe knows all the answers. Let's trust that. Anybody here ever like being made wrong? You do? No. Any of you have teenagers? Yeah? Ever make a teenager wrong? All the time. Oh, why'd you do this? Why didn't you do that? Why are you supposed to do this? Does it do anything to build affinity with people, to make somebody wrong? No. One of the worst interferences we have in our world, in communication, is making someone wrong. The moment you make a person or a body wrong, you've created a degree of interference in that relationship. So the ultimate goal in communication is find ways to build agreement, to build connection. The more we can connect on truths that we both or all of us accept, the more healing occurs. Have you ever been adjusted, been on the table, and felt like the chiropractor made your spine wrong? That you're on the table and you almost feel as though, ooh, we're gonna move them bones back into the right place because they're in the wrong place. I propose if you make a spine wrong, it's like making a person wrong. The more that we can align what we do on the table to our internal truth, the more healing will occur. Have you ever been on the table and somebody's going to do an adjustment on you? A modified rotary break in the supine position, and they're going to adjust your atlas on the right side. And they set up in that position, they're about ready to adjust you, and you're lying there saying, I don't think it's going to move. Ever been there? Ever been delivering that adjustment? You're in the position, you're about ready to put the force in, and you say to yourself, I don't think it's going to move. But then you go into this volley inside your brain. Everything says it's the right atlas. It's the right short leg. X-ray says it's right. Fixation is right. Muscle palpation says it's right. They know I'm supposed to do something here. And you go and you do it. And what happens? It's like hitting concrete, isn't it? There was something that the body was telling you that you weren't necessarily paying attention to. You all sensed it. But yet our ego gets in the way and says, but this is what I'm supposed to do. And what do? We immediately put ourselves down. Oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not quick enough. And you trigger and you sneak it in there. And you might even get it to cavitate. But is it something that you feel really good about? How many of you like being on the receiving end of that? You see, what you did is you made the nervous system wrong. You see, I believe in our lives, we need to be on a pursuit of making things right. Finding what's right in any system and making it righter. And it's that at the core essence of our philosophical construct that I'm asking you to question, to consider, because they don't talk about this in philosophy class. It's more than a bunch of principles. It's more than just a bunch of reasoning. It's about aligning that reasoning to a deeper level of understanding of how the universe is plugged together. About 40 years ago, this guy by the name of Aaron Antonovsky coined a term called salutogenesis, which comes from the idea of, during the holidays, you take the glass of wine and go, salute, right? How many of you ever do that? Who's Italian? Salute, right? It's to life, right? So salutogenesis comes from the word to life. Aaron Antonovsky was a professor of medical sociology, and he looked at health, stress, and coping. The actual word salus means giving birth to health. Or salutogenesis means giving birth to health. Salus comes from health, invincibility, well-being, happiness. It is the process of enabling individuals and communities to increase control over and improve their health by the World Health Organization. It is a rather new idea in healthcare that rather than looking at trying to fix problems, what can we do to give positive input into the system to bring better life and vitality? Antonovsky recognized that just because you eliminated pathogens or pathogenic conditions, diabetes, psychoses, neuroses, even if you effectively treated conditions, didn't necessarily create a more sane, more functional, more vital human being. All it to get rid of was problems. Antonovsky proposed that what we wanted to do is ensure the possibility that the body would have positive input. He looked at many aspects of healthcare. He also looked in terms of workplace. He wrote a number of papers and books on this idea of salutogenesis. And when he did, people thought he was a crazy one. They thought he was crazy because he wasn't addressing the conditions that the entire healthcare system was already having codes for and payments for. He was beginning to say, gee, there might be a different way to look at health, vitality, and well-being. Well, hell, when we hear about it as chiropractors, say, wow, that's what we've been talking about for over 100 years. It is. We now have more language for it. Because how often do you hear somebody define our profession, not by what we are, but what we aren't? Oh, we're drugless. We're non-medical. Yeah, that doesn't say what we are. We are truly a healthcare profession to build salutogenesis within humanity. We're one of the only professions, as a healthcare profession, that has a tool with which to do that. Most of the tools of medicine are focused at pathogenesis. All of the tools of medicine were designed to be effective treatments of conditions. I'm sorry? They are tools. Okay, no problem. Did I not say that? Okay. One of the things that Antonovsky stated is that salutogenesis would increase as a person's sense of coherence increased. He defined a sense of coherence as a global orientation that expresses the extent to which one has pervasive, enduring, though dynamic feeling of confidence that the stimuli derived from one's internal and external environments in the course of living are structured, predictable, and explicable. Number two, that the resources available to one meet the demands posed by these stimuli. And three, these demands are challenges worthy of investment and engagement. He said that what you wanted to have positive salutogenesis, to have somebody go further in this direction of salutogenic change, you wanted to have an increased sense of coherence. And he defined that that would occur when a person's comprehensibility, manageability, and meaningfulness increased. He actually looked at comprehensibility as being a belief that things happen in an orderly and predictable fashion, and a sense that you can understand events in your life and reasonably predict what will happen in the future. Manageability, a belief that you have the skills or ability, the support, the help, or the resources necessary to care for things, and that things are manageable and within your control. And meaningfulness, a belief that things in life are interesting and a source of satisfaction, that things are really worthwhile, and that there's a good reason or purpose to care about what happens. That any time that comprehensibility, manageability, or meaningfulness dropped, it would reduce a person's ability to have a good high level of sense of coherence and would begin to reduce the degree of positive salutogenesis. So he looked at what he referred to as generalized resource deficits, forces coming from the outside, and generalized resistive resources, forces coming from the inside. Hell, I remember learning this in chiropractic philosophy class at Palmer College a lot of years ago, that the internal resistive forces are greater than the external invasive forces. And he was saying that any time that the GRR is less than the GRD, you would reduce a person's sense of coherence. Every time the GRD was less than the GRR, you'd have a greater sense of coherence at a greater degree of salutogenesis. Antonovsky offered a different perspective than was contemporary thought at the time. He's still a perspective that doesn't exist within the mindset of our culture, definitely a healthcare community. So I applaud Life West for creating that construct in the space of Chiropractic Weekend to explore this idea as we express our art. I don't believe that chiropractic and salutogenesis have an equal sign, because there are many chiropractors who live in a different school, came from a different perspective, they use chiropractic in a very pathogenic way. And I'm going to explore that in a minute. What I'd like to do is look at salutogenesis relative to how we manage people within our practices. In a pathogenic environment, you would offer a diagnosis and a treatment of a condition. You'd identify a problem, offer a treatment, put them through a treatment regime, and as the treatment made an effect, you'd either reduce the amount of care or dismiss them. In a salutogenic world, you assess somebody. You don't necessarily make somebody wrong. It's not about finding what's wrong. You assess somebody and say, what's the best way that we can serve you? What's the best way that we can care for you? In a pathogenic world, you are fixing, curing, and treating. You're trying to identify something that's a wrongness, and how can we eliminate that wrongness and fix it? In a salutogenic world, we look at enhancing well-being. The goal becomes vitality. It's not necessarily about ridding the body of anything. It's about the body gaining something. In a pathogenic world, it's about managing a case. How are they going to get managed through this? In a salutogenic world, it's about giving positive input into the system. Then no matter how much positive input you give in the system, you're going to give it more positive input. And the more positive input you give the system, the greater the sense of coherence, and in our world, a greater degree of adaptability, a greater degree of flexibility, a greater ability for the life to express itself. In pathogenic care, the doctor knows. They're the hero. They're the guru. In a salutogenic world, the patient's the hero. They're the genius. One of the things I loved doing to the children in my practice is letting them know that they have a genius inside of them. The genius knows how to do all the things to make their body magical. And when somebody gets over something, it wasn't chiropractic that did it. It was a body that did that. The intelligence that created their body. All chiropractic did was provide a very specific input into the physiology that allowed a greater degree of flexibility and adaptability of that organism. In pathogenic care, care is usually short-term and they're dismissed. In salutogenic care, it's for a longer term, usually a lifetime. Is salutogenesis the same as vitalism? No. Vitalism is a philosophical construct that had its origins back in the early 1900s. And it was a coming together of a mechanistic viewpoint of the body and a spiritualistic viewpoint of the body. That the body was viewed either as a machine or as the product of a deity. And what vitalism did is it honored both of those. That the body is this amazing machine, but it has the ghost inside of it. That vital life force, this innate intelligence, breathes life into the being. D.D. Palmer was a vitalist. There is not an equal sign between vitalism and salutogenesis. Salutogenesis is a direction, a perspective of how we want to see our patients grow. Vitalism is a way we see the world is put together. Is it the same as holism? No. Holism just recognizes that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. That there's something bigger when you look at the whole thing. And we live in a world that looks at things in a very reductionistic way. We believe that as we study the smaller and smaller, we understand the bigger and bigger. Well, our vitalistic perspective was born out of a deductive process of reasoning that started with a major premise. As much as this is aligned to salutogenesis, salutogenesis is not holism. Is it prevention? Not at all. Prevention is really pathogenesis. It's the prevention of pathogens. Many people say chiropractic is preventive. It's not. It's not. We live in a pathogenic world where what people want to do is treat conditions and then move away from those conditions or prevent those conditions. Salutogenesis is about looking in this direction, about doing things that create more vitality, more well-being. So it's not the same as prevention. It's the same as non-therapeutic. That might be the closest that we get to it, but I don't like defining things by what they're not. It's not pathogenesis, basically is what that's saying. It's not trying to fix, cure something. Salutogenesis is a new idea, but is so aligned to our philosophy. It's so aligned to how chiropractors see the world. I encourage all of you to really explore it because we are in the process of defining it. We are going to be the first profession that has the possibility of beginning to define it. Within the ICPA, we realize that there is no quality of life assessments for pregnancy or infancy. We're in the process of trying to create the accepted questionnaires for quality of life assessments to show salutogenic change in those populations. Isn't it going to be awesome to see that coming from a chiropractic value system? See, I believe that we need to explore this idea and not immediately say, yeah, that's us, but how are we going to define it? I think we need to look at our words and the terminology that we use. If we offer ourselves the idea that what we're doing is treating patients, we are focusing on a pathogenic world, that we're treating something that is wrong. Yes, we treat people, but I mean, it's conditions or phenomena that occur. Another thing I hear chiropractors say a lot is, we're going to restore that curve back. We're going to restore your body back to health. Do we ever restore anything? Does the body ever go back to where it was? Doesn't. We're going to allow a greater degree of adaptability, a greater sense of coherence, a greater degree of life expression. The body will learn from every experience that it's had within its lifetime. We don't restore anything to anyone. We don't cure, we don't fix. We need to create languaging that is aligned to the value system that we have within this new model, as Antonovsky proposed to us. I believe that it's very aligned to this big idea, But now I want you to step back for a minute and view how you view your practice. In terms of outcomes assessment for a patient, we can live within a salutogenic world. We could say what we're trying to do is allow a greater degree of adaptability and a sense of coherence in a person's life. But what we're going to do is make sure that that atlas is sitting exactly where it's supposed to be. We're taking a pathogenic view of the subluxation phenomena to create a salutogenic view of the impact we make upon a person. I'm not making this wrong. There's not a judgment connected to this. I just want us to become really clear with what we're doing. There is nothing wrong with pathogenic care. There are as many within our profession who view the subluxation phenomena as a condition that needs to be treated. That you're going to take and realign something, restore a curve, bring balance back to the body. You are viewing a subluxation as a pathogenic process that you are treating to allow a salutogenic change within a person's life. Am I making sense to you? There are some people who use a subluxation, don't even view that it's real, but let's say assume that they're adjusting a subluxation, and what they are trying to do is treat conditions. Sciatica, back pain, headaches. They view the subluxation as a pathology, and they are treating pathologies. They are both pathogenic. There are many doors that are beginning to be opened within our profession that view the process of subluxation adjustment not as a pathogenic process, but a salutogenic one. That as they engage in relationship with a person's spine, rather than saying, I know what's wrong and I'm going to fix you, they're saying, I see your body's doing something. How can I serve you? How can I love you? How can we bring you into a greater degree of vitality and life expression? So rather than trying to make the body wrong in what it's doing, they try to find what's right and make what's right righter. Realize I am not at all judging your value system of subluxation. Because as a student particularly, you need to create the reality of what the subluxation phenomenon is. It ain't a good thing. Yes, at the moment that it occurred, it was a good thing, but it ain't a good thing. So you go through the rigor of doing this, but the ideal essence of the soulful connection that we want to make with our patients and our practice members is to come into recognition that the subluxation is a mechanism of us to assess somebody and determine how we can best serve them, how we can best love them, how they can best be in connection to themselves. You see, I think the real key here is in connection. Isn't that what we try to do? Connect the brain and the body better by allowing that nervous system to be better connected, if you will, to dissipate what it no longer needs, allow that interference to no longer need to be there, to come into a better moment. That as we connect people to themselves better, then they connect to their world better. They relate to everybody better. They have a higher degree of manageability, a better degree of comprehensibility, more meaningfulness within their lives by having a body that is adapting better. You see, there's a tremendous alignment between salutogenesis and our vitalistic viewpoint of service. And I ask you to consider that the source of how it all binds is through this process of connection. Because if we keep people less subluxated, allowing them to express better degrees of who they be as a person, as a soul, as a spirit, they ultimately will connect with other people better. They'll be able to look at other people and see them as people better because they are people and not just things, not just conditions, not just things that are at their workplace. Because it's that connection that binds us, that connects us. And really the reason why we're here is to connect. Larry Webster, the founder of the ICPA, when he would teach technique, would say, you want to connect with a child. Look at them eye to eye, soul to soul, spirit to spirit. And as you make that connection with them, you ask permission to be in service to them, to how to specifically put a force into their body to allow their body to be in a better place. I believe every chiropractic adjustment only takes a few moments. And in those few moments, better connects that person to themselves and opens the door of possibility for them to connect better into their world. We are the answer, my brothers and sisters, to bring healing and light to this planet. Connect with people, love people. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Peter. Dr. Peter Kevorkian. There he is.